U.S. military launches kinetic strikes against narco-terror networks as Venezuela accused Washington of covert aggression and regional tensions escalate. On the direct order from President Donald Trump, the U.S. military has carried out a series of precision kinetic strikes against vessels linked to designated terrorist organizations in the Eastern Pacific, marking a significant escalation in America's campaign against narco-terrorism. Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth confirmed that pre-coordinated operations targeted 4 high-speed boats operated by groups with ties to transnational drug cartel and terrorist financing network. The strike, conducted entirely in international waters, resulted in the destruction of the vessels and the death of 14 individuals described as narco-terrorists, with one survivor rescued by Mexican authorities. Video footage released by the Pentagon showed the targeted boats laden with narcotic erupting into massive fireballs upon impact. This action represents the 5th such strike in recent weeks, underscoring the Trump administration's aggressive posture toward intercepting illicit trafficking before it reaches U.S. shore. Officials emphasized that no American personnel were harmed during the operations and that all actions complied with international maritime law. The campaign reflects a broader strategic shift under the current administration, which has prioritized direct military interventions over traditional interdiction methods, framing drug trafficking not merely as a law enforcement issue but as a national security threat intertwined with terrorism and foreign destabilization. Simultaneously, tensions in the Caribbean have surged as Venezuela accused Trinidad and Tobago of collaborating with the U.S. Southern Command and the Central Intelligence Agency in joint military exercise near Venezuela territorial waters. Caracas denounced these drills as a deliberate provocation and linked them to the 1964 Gulf of Tonkin incident, suggesting they could serve as a pretext for future military intervention. Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello announced the arrest of 3 individuals allegedly caught with CIA operational manuals and attempting to delete sensitive data from their mobile device, claiming these actions were part of a broader covert campaign to destabilize the Maduro government. In response to what it describes as hostile acts, Venezuela has suspended all gas exploitation agreement with Trinidad and Tobago, a move that threatens regional energy cooperation and could impact Caribbean energy markets. President Nicolas Maduro, during his weekly broadcast, accused the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago of turning the island nation into an aircraft carrier of the U.S. empire and declared that Venezuela would no longer participate in joint energy ventures under these conditions. The diplomatic rupture comes amid growing fears in Latin America of a potential false flag operations designed to justify external interference, with Caracas urging regional allies to remain vigilant against perceived U.S. orchestrated destabilization efforts. Adding to the pressure on Venezuela, U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham issued a stark warning to President Maduro, urging him to find a way to leave the country before American pressure intensifies further. Graham explicitly raised the possibility of military force as a future option if diplomatic and economic measures fail to produce a political transition in Caracas. His comments reflect a hardening stance within certain factions of the U.S. government, particularly among Trump allies, who view Maduro's continued rule as a threat to regional stability and a conduit for adversarial powers like Russia and Iran. In response, Maduro signaled that he might seek refuge in either China or Russia if forced into exile, highlighting the deepening geopolitical alignment between Caracas and Moscow and Beijing. This alignment is further evidenced by ongoing infrastructure and trade collaborations, such as the Rasht Astara railway project, a 162-kilometer segment of the International North-South Transport Corridor, INSTC, which is being jointly developed by Iran and Russia with Chinese backing. The railway aims to connect Iran's southern ports directly to Russian and European markets, reducing trade costs by 30% and cutting transit times in half. Western analysts interpret this initiative as a deliberate effort to bypass US-dominated financial and logistical systems, potentially laying the groundwork for an alternative anti-Western trade architecture that could reshape global commerce flow in the coming decade. Elsewhere, reports have emerged suggesting Pakistan may deploy approximately 20,000 troops to Gaza as part of a proposed post-war international stabilization force operating under Western oversight. While initial headlines inaccurately frame the move as direct assistance to Israel, clarified sources indicate that the Pakistani contingent would serve in a humanitarian and reconstruction capacity following a potential ceasefire, not as combatant in the ongoing conflict. However, the proposal has already drawn strong opposition from Iran and Egypt, both of which view any foreign military presence in Gaza, particularly from non-Arab or non-regional actors, as a potential violation of Palestinian sovereignty. In South Asia, India is recalibrating its energy import strategy in response to new U.S. sanctions targeting Russian oil suppliers. Although Russian crude remains a significant component of India's energy mix due to its discounted pricing, New Delhi is increasingly turning to American and Gulf-based alternatives to mitigate legal and financial risk. Indian refiners are adopting a case-by-case evaluation process, closely monitoring the scope and enforcement of sanctions before committing to long-term contracts. This cautious approach reflects India's broader effort to balance its strategic autonomy with the realities of a fragmented global energy market shaped by great power competition. Together, these developments illustrate how regional conflicts from the Eastern Pacific to the Middle East and South Asia are becoming increasingly interconnected through the lens of great power rivalry, sanctions regimes, and competing visions for global orders. If you have made it this far, congratulations, you have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question though. As the US escalates kinetic warfare against narco-terror networks and Venezuela cries false flag, while Iran and Russia build alternative trade corridors like the Rasht Astara railway, are we witnessing the birth of a true multipolar world order, or just deeper fragmentation and proxy conflict? And why? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video, hit the notification bell, and most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.